Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Allotment Diaries. Thank you for joining me and I hope you are doing well. As you can see, I'm not at the allotment today. This week has kind of been a bit of an odd week for me. I've not been feeling 100% mentally. I've been feeling quite tired. My anxiety has kind of increased a lot over the past week and I've kind of lost a bit of momentum and steam for going up to the plot. I wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit more, about how I'm feeling and sort of kind of contextualize it a little bit. I didn't want to not do a vlog for this week because I think it's important to kind of talk about the less happier times and the kind of, I don't want to say negative side of having a plot, but when you're somebody who has mental health problems, doing something like taking on an allotment plot isn't always going to be easy. So I kind of want to address that side of it today. I'll try and be as brief as possible because I could probably go on for hours about, you know, various different facets of how I'm feeling, but I think it's important for me to kind of talk about how I'm feeling and how that's kind of changed the plans we had for working on the plot over the past week. So I'm never really sure where to start with things like this, because if you suffer from depression or anxiety, you kind of know that in one hand your depression's kind of like, you know, I don't want to do stuff, I really can't be bothered, but then your anxiety is kind of like, well, you need to do it, you must do it, because if you don't do it, then X, Y, and Z is going to happen, and this kind of battle between the two things going on in your head can be incredibly exhausting and draining. Because I've kind of felt this week that I haven't even really wanted to go up and sort of feed the birds and you know, feed Sebastian and the blue tits and all the other birds that are kind of coming to rely on me for food. And I wrote in my blog post that I posted on Wednesday or Thursday, I can't remember which day it was, that I feel kind of guilty for not going up to the plot this week. And I felt guilty because, you know, I'm paying for the plot and I've not been up, and I have to be up like every day to kind of make the most of the money that I'm paying and kind of justify the fact that, you know, I'm paying X amount a year for this plot, which means I have to be up there kind of all day every day. And then I kind of felt guilty because I hadn't finished working on the shed and doing stuff to that, which has kind of been more so my pet project than Mr. Mindful Grower's kind of project. And then I also felt really guilty because I was like, well, I haven't been up to feed Sebastian and the birds, and, you know, they're going to wonder where I am, which is ridiculous really, because they've survived quite well before I came along, and, you know, they're wild birds, they're not my pet birds, and, you know, they will find food wherever they go and decide to find food. So me giving them food is just an added bonus for them. It just means that they don't have to do any hard work, which, you know, is in the colder winter months, you know, if it snows or if it's really icy and frosty, then, you know, an extra amount of food for them would be beneficial, but, you know, they're going to survive without it. And then I kind of feel guilty because I haven't done as much work to the soil and planting things that I've wanted to plant. I mean, I've got a load of spring bulbs, you know, tulips and alliums and all sorts of stuff that are kind of sitting around waiting to be planted, and even nature's deadline hasn't really kind of given me a kick up the bum to kind of go up to the plot and, you know, plant them, at least, you know, doing that. So I kind of wrote about how I was feeling in my blog, and I had quite a few really supportive comments actually. I was quite surprised at how my blog post kind of hit a chord with people. And and they've all kind of said the same thing. They're like, you know, it's the end of the kind of allotment season, if you like. You know, people are finishing off their harvests. They're kind of preparing all the soil and everything for growing next year, and it's kind of a time where everything is winding down, whereas I kind of feel everything needs to be kind of ramped up a bit, which, you know, it's not technically the right way of thinking, but you know, someone said that I should just go up to the plot and kind of sit and just surround myself with nature and just not do anything and just kind of appreciate what's around me. And I think as a mindful practice exercise, that's really good. And I know sometimes I've kind of said, well, I've just kind of taken a break and sat and watched the birds and just kind of appreciated nature, but that I've always had to have something to do either before that or after that. Whereas you know, just going up there and kind of sitting and not having an agenda and not having anything to do and just appreciating what is there, I think is really important. So I'm certainly going to take that that kind of advice on board. And I also kind of feel that with these weekly vlogs, I'm kind of really stressing myself out with having to have the perfect vlog, whatever that is. You know, I try not to make them too long, but they always end up being like, you know, 15-20 minutes long. And I think I'm trying to create a particular atmosphere and aesthetic, which, whilst is a good idea, it's not necessarily the most practical idea. And, you know, I make these vlogs not for, you know, likes and shares. I mean, if people like it and want to subscribe, that's fantastic. You know, I'm happy with, you know, 20 subscribers on YouTube or, you know, 200,000, whatever. It doesn't really matter, but, you know, I want to make these vlogs to share the journey that I'm going on, and also share this journey for other people who have mental health problems, who may be looking for a kind of complementary therapy route. I know mental health services are vastly oversubscribed and underfunded, and finding support and therapy systems in those can be very difficult. And I really think that you know, gardening, allotmenting, being out in nature can be a fantastic complementary therapy to, you know, talking therapies or, you know, drug therapies that people may need. But in doing that and sharing everything, I've also kind of given myself a lot more work than I need to. And I think, you know, I still want to do these weekly vlogs, but I'm going to really try and condense them down into sort of 10 minutes or less, because it takes me a week to edit, you know, one vlog. And I'm like, right, I've got to get this shot, go home, spend an hour, you know, splicing up the shots, putting them all together, changing the sound, all that kind of stuff. And it is incredibly time consuming. And I think, you know, for those of you who do make, you know, vlogs or videos, you know how kind of time consuming that can be. But if you're somebody who has quite bad anxiety and depression, and somebody who puts a lot of pressure on themselves to be perfect and to control everything that you're doing or what happens to you, that can kind of set off some red flags in your mind and kind of add extra pressure that doesn't really need to be added. So with that in mind, I think for next week I'm going to try and do some still film, but not include everything in it, just, you know, highlights of the week that we've been working on, just to make it slightly more manageable for me, and also sort of easier for people to watch, I guess. I mean, people are watching my videos, and I'm getting a lot of views, which is fantastic. So people are obviously enjoying watching them. But for me, just to protect myself and to stop myself going completely insane, just to kind of sort of narrow down what I'm filming and just make it in, you know, put it into slightly more manageable chunks. So yeah, the vlog side of things is kind of easier to deal with. The motivation and loss of steam, I mean, I guess it happens to people. I think the excitement of getting the plot, I wouldn't say it's wearing off, but I think the honeymoon period is kind of, you know, it's slightly coming to an end now. And I have been up to the plot pretty much, I want to say every day, but consistently for the past 6 weeks since I got the plot. I've been up there every week religiously. And I think I may have, in my rush to get everything done, peaked too soon with my energy and motivation for, you know, for working on the plot. And, you know, I still feel a bit guilty for not being up there this week and not getting things done. But, you know, people who have read my blog post have said, you know, it's fine to take a week off. You know, there's nothing important that needs to be done. You know, we've not been growing crops for the past year, so we've got nothing to harvest or, you know, other bits and pieces to be getting on with if we had an established plot. And, you know, I for people, you know, people saying that to me has kind of taken the pressure and the anxiety off, and I kind of feel like, right, okay, so I'm not going completely mad thinking I need to be up there 24/7. And I think taking a week off will give me a better appreciation of what we've achieved, because we have achieved quite a lot in the past 6 weeks with, you know, limited time for Mr. Mindful Grower's side, because he's, you know, he works longer hours, and with limited resources in terms of having a car and getting rid of all the rubbish and pulling up all the weeds. You know, we have done a hell of a lot of basic groundwork, and, you know, I think we should be very very proud of what we've done, and I need to keep remembering that actually we have done quite a lot of stuff, and we should be proud of the achievements that we've made up until this point. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on how I've been feeling over the past week, and, you know, giving myself a bit of a break and a kind of step back from all the stuff on the plot. We are going to go up tomorrow afternoon, Sunday. The weather's not particularly great today. It's Saturday. The rain and the mist and drizzle isn't really instilling much enthusiasm in both of us. But tomorrow is meant to be a nicer day, so we are going to go up tomorrow afternoon. So hopefully I will feel slightly more motivated once I get back up onto the plot, and I will catch up with you when we get up there tomorrow. So we made it up to the plot today. It's a lovely Sunday afternoon. The weather's really nice. It's quite sort of summer-like actually, which is good. I'm glad I came up today. I'm not really going to do too much. My anxiety's been a bit up and down this weekend, so I don't really plan on expending too much energy, because I just don't have much energy to expend really. I fed the birds, which was playing on my mind, but they've had food now, and Sebastian's been straight in eating all the seeds, so he's happy at least. I'm going to be planting some of my tulip and allium bulbs this afternoon, and Mr. Mindful Grower is working on some of the bottom section soil on the plot. So yeah, it's going to be a nice genteel afternoon, at least for me anyway. Whoops. So yeah, I will check in with you in a little bit.
So we've had quite a busy afternoon. Mr. Mindful Grower has worked on this section of the soil, so he's worked his way all the way down to the bottom, and he's also done this bit over here. We're making progress on the compacted soil. It's quite difficult to rake and dig into, but we've made good progress so far, and I have started to lay out a bit of a rudimentary path system, just to get started on working out where we're going to put paths and where we're going to put the raised beds. So it's been another beautiful autumnal afternoon and we've had a really good time.
So that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry it's been a bit of a random vlog, but I thought it was necessary to kind of talk a little bit more about the kind of behind the scenes things, if you like. But I'm glad I came up today, and I'm glad we've made some really good progress on the rest of the plot. Those were the kind of biggest things that we needed to do before we do the kind of beds and paths and things like that. So thank you very much for joining me. If you do like these vlogs, then please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to. It would mean a lot to me. And I will see you next week for episode 8.